Hello, welcome to my channel, J.L.Craft, where I introduce myself as JL. The thing I'd like to talk about is the craft. I guess before we begin, I shall talk about the name itself, J.L.Craft. I shall be introducing myself a lot, repeatedly saying I.J.L. a lot. It shall be a character I shall be acting out as, removing me out of the picture and just letting the entertainment aspect of the channel take control. This character shall represent the higher positive growth vibration, while he'll have an opposing entity known as bin, B-I-N. He shall represent a little bit like the trash bin, like a trash compactor that crushes things down. And my aspect of crushing things down, I tend to do this a lot with thoughts to basically try and make a light out of it, so you can shine it on a subject. You can look at it in a different perspective that you didn't think to look at it before. I do this practice a lot, so I don't find the entity bin as necessarily what you would call evil, just something that helps see a different perspective of things. Not always good, but you don't have to go through the experience yourself. You can just understand it. This shall be one form of stability I will give my channel, this character. The other aspect of my channel is, of course, the craft. Now, I remember back when I was a child, way back when pretty much baby years, when I was learning how to talk. I actually do remember this far back. And the thing I remember doing a lot when I was a child was replacing one word with a different word, still trying to use the original word like a chain link, and adding new chain links onto it. And I like to try and play this game. It's a way of exercising the crown chakra. Help me understand things. When I was younger, I would combine so many chain links where I'd completely make a train of thoughts, and it would come up with new thoughts to the point where I wasn't learning words and understanding what they were. I was understanding and needing to try and find words to best describe my thoughts. I understood at a very young age that you don't actually think in words. Crazy, I know, but you weren't born with words in your head to start with. You grew up learning these words, and you naturally put them with your thoughts as you think them. So, playing with this crown chakra idea, one of the strongest forms is questioning. The way how you can do this is always pretend you're wrong. And you question it over and over and over again. After a while, you start giving this idea of an answer, and only come up with, a thought. A very strong, high-level vibration is thought. Lower ones are, of course, answer. That's a very low one, believe it or not. Another one is idea, opinion. A higher one than those, but still below thought, is understanding. Picture that. Replace the word with understanding. Replace the word answer with the word understanding. And anybody can have their own perspective of understanding to a question. Thus, in turn, if you're replacing the word answer with understanding, a lot of answers can come out of just one question, and not just one suitable answer. I guess with some things like math. But hey, I can argue 1 plus 1 can in fact equal 3. If two people get together, they have a child, there goes 3. Simple math, right? So one of the things I remember doing this as I got older to help describe what is this kind of exercise of the crown chakra and replacing one word with another kind of works, is the entity known as Odin. Now Odin has 2 blackbirds. One of them is memory, one of them is thought. Now a lot of people like to think that both these birds are ravens, period. I try to have the argument, well, why not one's a crow, why not one's a raven? I mean, they're 2 different things, right? Memory, thought. They try to argue, no, the crow's a stupid bird. They're not as smart as ravens. I'm like, okay. Well, if you ever look at a cartoon like Ruby, you notice that there's this person, this character, has the capability to give power of flight to two people to transform into two black birds. One of these people is called Crow, and none of these people is called Raven. I believe this entity is in fact Odin in this cartoon called Ruby. Think about that. So I'm not the only person who thinks this way, while other people want to be shut down and say it's only one way. When my idea of replacing a word with another word, replacing the word answer with understanding, removing this aspect of closed-mindedness, you come to a better understanding of things. So, I did this with the word memory and thought. I replaced the memory with experience. With experiences, you create memories. Right? Now, with the word thought, I replaced it with the word understanding. Now, the reason why I do this is because I feel very strongly that memory and thought are two very high level vibrations. I think a little too high for the world to really grab a hold of and really understand. So backing it up a step and giving you a different kind of perspective, playing with the crown chakra and just replacing words, you can come up with a better understanding of things and give a new light to shine on a different perspective of things. So I like this play with things. I've done this since I was a child. So I bring this memory back to you about these two birds, these two black birds, and the two entities the identities they represent as entities. I did the same thing with the word craft. I don't want to lose the word craft and what it represents, what it means, especially what I plan to use it for my channel. I use it in the sense of invoking. So the word I like to replace the word craft with is also understanding. Therefore, I'm actually arguing, or debating, or just giving an understanding and perspective, here's a high level vibration word, a thought. Evoking understanding. This is why I want to call it craft. This is another form of stability I want to give my channel. It's not something I'm trying to be twisty, turning, or confusing about. I wish to reach an understanding. I'm here on earth to help push spirituality along. Another form of stability I want to give my channel is, of course, telling a story. I like the idea of calling these stories story crafts. But there's many different forms of crafts out there, and there's a spiritual aspect to it. Spiritual crafted tokens. Sometimes these can just be songs. Sometimes they're just a picture. Sometimes they're this poem that doesn't necessarily tell a story, but give a very powerful thought. I like these. I like all these. But one of my forms I plan to do is get them into a story form. And I plan to do it in a gist kind of form, not in extreme details. I remember the first time I'm coming up with this kind of idea, this kind of concept, is when I did a spiritual practice where I went on a spiritual journey from listening to a story. My mother, back when I was a child, would say, "Story time!" I was like, "Yay!" And with my little brother, he was like, "Yay!" And we both went, "Oh, Mom just said it was bedtime." My mom would share these fairy tale stories, and they were always fun. I enjoyed them, but I never got too interested in any of them to actually utilizing my spiritual practices with them. My mother was purposely reading these stories, not telling us that she was trying to get us to go on a spiritual journey. So she read this one particular story that had a link to many other stories, right? In this link in this story was a table with all sorts of items on this table. All these items had representations that came from different stories. Right? One of the items on this table was a fork. A little tiny baby silver fork that had royalty like little marking patterns on it, meaning that you belong to royalty. With a golden hair, large loops that looked like it was belonged to a petite person that was really long hair, partly because of how much of a tiny baby fork this was. Like a full-grown lady that was just petite. Had a very strong vibration to it. When my mother told me this story, I did the spiritual craft where I went to sleep and allowed it to be the last thought in my head, right? And when I went to sleep, I got to watch this story unfold. And the way how I made it my last thought is by remembering the name of the story. I let that be my strongest memory because I was forgetting everything. Who I was, how old I was, where I was. And as I was forgetting everything, I let the last thought be this story's name. And when I grabbed the whole thing, that was the only thing I wanted to remember. I was able to go on a story. In my own mind, when I was asleep. It was a dream, but it was the story itself. And it went into complete detail, extreme detail. Especially that table in the background that was described in the story. And I wanted to know about that fork. Because it belonged to a lady that wanted to love in life. She's a wonderful person. I wanted to be that man in her life. I really wanted to see that she was happy. Even if it didn't end up being me, I wanted to see her happy. So I remember grabbing this fork and looking at it and channeling my energy to it. And I got to see the story. Only it was an incomplete story. It was like this fuzziness to it, like watching static. A bunch of white, seeing this girl who, instead of growing up with a silver spoon in her mouth, she grew up with a silver fork in her mouth. These 4 short little prongs. And I was like, wow, she's such a pretty girl. And she would having a spoon in her mouth. I mean, not a spoon, her fork in her mouth. And her mother was like, your hair's a mess. You just got out of bed. Comb it. Popped the fork out of her mouth and brushed her hair with a fork. And it made me think about Ariel from The Little Mermaid, you know? How she would actually brush her hair with a fork. And I was like, so this is the real person. She has Goldilocks blonde hair and she's a petite lady. She wears augmented children clothing because she was still developing into a woman. But she was just this beautiful little darling of a person. And also a wonderful little sweetheart as well. And the way how her story played out, strange enough, is she did end up with a man. And that's the trick to her story. That this story was never given out to the world. The whole story was a short story that she herself was writing in specific words that were complicated to understand, and the structure of the sentence words told her entire story and was supposed to be in one sentence. And there's even gaps, large gaps between these words representing them like hand claps. It was all mathematical. She was actually royalty, and she had this higher level understanding, this specific way how writing, that she wanted to get her story out, and how she did have a happy ending. She ended up with the man that she wanted to be with. But the vibration I found out, I couldn't finish the story until I found out the parchment. The story was never complete because the husband said, we have to go. Took her, left the parchment, and it was never completed. But the reason why is because he grabbed her and they pamoosed. They got out. Because they never wanted to be found. Because there's so much of a low negative crush vibration back then that they would never be happy even if she got the story out. She wanted to tell people that she was happy, but a lot of people thought, oh, this is a sad story. She's not happy kind of thing. Well, no. She got away. The husband was a smart man. And she did end up happy. This is an amazing story, right? And I woke up and told my mom about the storybook that she read. Well, she was reading the story again the next night. It's like, no, read a different story. I want to go on a different spiritual journey. My mom was like, wait, what? Every story I have read to you so far, you haven't went on a spiritual journey. All those ones I haven't been interested in. They all had these dark tones and negative aspects to them. So I was more interested about dreaming about other things. But this one story you read, I went on a spiritual journey. And there's this fork. Can you read me that story? You know about the fork. That wasn't in this storybook. Yes, it was. It's at the end of the table right there. I can see it in the picture. There's even a little golden hair, but that's not drawn in there. I guess it's too detailed. My mom was like, there is a golden hair. You did it. You actually did. So all those other stories are just not interesting to you? A lot of them were really violent, Mom. Fairy tales didn't always have these awesome stories. Sometimes they were kind of gruesome stories, but they were spiritually crafted stories. That's the interesting thing. They were spiritually crafted tokens.